Other than cheating, what secret do you keep from your significant other to prevent upsetting them? Story 1. The first Christmas after I got together with my partner, he brought me a beautiful opal necklace. He knew it was my favorite stone. I suspect he paid quite a bit. He's mad proud of the thing and loves to see me wear it. He told me that when he brought it, he paid for a slightly smaller opal. The shop worker accidentally grabbed the wrong one, so he got an upgrade to a bigger opal for free. The partner also has a whole thing against fake stones and jewelry. He thinks it's tacky, horrible, dishonest, etc. Long story short, what he doesn't realize is that my beautiful opal was a fake. See, I suspect he paid for a real opal, but he probably wasn't meant to see that. Oops. When the shop owner grabbed the bigger one, I suspect they ran a little con on him, charged him for a smaller real one and grabbed the larger fake instead. He thought the accident was in his favor, so he never complained. I only know 1. The play of color and size in the opal I have would have cost a small house deposit if it had been real, and there's no way he bought that as a uni student when we first got together. And 2, a real opal would never have stood up to the wear and tear I have put it through. I literally never take it off. It comes for me on runs, in the salt water, in the shower, etc. All things that would have destroyed a real opal many years ago. 3. A friend brought a pair of earrings that matched my necklace, not on purpose, and she confirmed that my necklace and her earrings made up the store's imitation opal birthstone set. I love that freaking stone. I don't wear much jewelry, but I haven't taken that necklace off in 3 years. I have literally told him that if we get married one day, I'm having the thing pulled off the necklace and set into a ring. That's gonna be an awkward conversation with the jeweler. If I told him, he'd probably feel really bad about it and want to get me a replacement. But I love this stupid thing, so I won't tell. That's really nice of you to do. You know what? He may have lost some money with a fake, but he definitely won with you. Story 2. My wife is a huge animal lover. Volunteered at local shelters and such before our kids were born. One night, years ago, she was leaving work and outside the front door, she found a small bird. Probably a sparrow on the sidewalk. It didn't run or fly away, so she assumed it was hurt. She ran back inside, got a box, and searched online for a bird rescue and found one about 20 to 30 minutes away. She drove the bird there, dropped it off, and they took her information because they said they would send her a card as a thank you. This was at least 6 or 7 years ago, and she still brings it up every so often and remembers that they never sent that card. They did send the card thanking her for bringing the bird in for help. The card also said they euthanized the bird because it had broken bones in its wing, maybe from being hit by a car in the parking lot. I read it and crammed the card deep into the trash because I didn't want her to get upset that the bird she tried so hard to help had to be euthanized. Oh, that was unexpected. Why in the world would someone feel the need to include that detail in a card? Jesus Christ. Story 3. My wife has a beautiful heart. I jokingly call her a Disney princess because any animal she comes across she has to talk to and greet. She's cried by seeing a dead raccoon on the side of the road before. At the time, I was working a day shift and she was working a swing shift. I had a busy day, but I saw she sent me some pictures of a young doe that was eating in her front yard. She seemed thrilled. I came home and saw the same deer, dead, on my goddamn porch. I felt like I started to hear the First 48 theme playing as I realized I have 6 hours to get rid of this thing before my wife gets home and her world is shattered. Called my local city authorities thinking they wouldn't want a dead animal in the middle of town. Turns out they couldn't care less. They called some local raptor shelters to see if they could take a stat donation, but it turns out the dead deer business is booming, and they didn't have a need for donations at this time, especially in the next 6 hours. Frustrated, I called my dad to vent and get advice on what to do. His response is only a, "Hold on, bud. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I go back inside to take care of the dogs, and within the next 15 minutes, I see my dad back his huge truck into my backyard, has the tailgate down and is knocking on my door with a pair of nitrile gloves on and another pair in hand for me. It was starting to get dark out, but we had the thing loaded up and found a special place to dispose of it. We made it back 20 minutes to spare before my wife got home. I haven't told my wife, because I think it would either break her heart or creep her out at how efficiently my dad can dump a body. Anyway, wifey thinks her dear friend is alive and well, and totally not at the bottom of a ravine. That's epic. Your dad is the GOAT. Dead body, no questions. Just, I got you fam, gloves and a disposal site. Hilarious. Hey there. If you haven't heard already, a few friends and I recently launched Rufus Rugs, your go-to destination for premium custom hand-tufted rugs. Looking to add a touch of your favorite anime like Naruto to your space? We've got you covered. Or perhaps you're a die-hard Pokemon guy and want bus toys showcased for everyone to admire. No matter your style, we can bring your vision to life. Click the first link in the description to explore more. Story 4. I was stuck with my ex-partner for a long time because although I wasn't happy and wanted to leave, I couldn't. She told me that if I ever did, she would kill herself. I was committed to making her happy but never told her that I was depressed. She was severely autistic and required a certain amount of attention. She had a strict schedule where I'd have to stay in bed with her. No TV, no phone, just cuddling and talking until 10 p.m. every night. If I didn't, she would have a severe panic attack. Sometimes even if I did, she would have one because she thought I was leaving her, even though we lived together and I would only be a room away. This would happen extremely frequently, and I had to do everything for her, or she would have panic attacks. When I told her I needed a bit of space, she said she would give it to me, but she never did. Eventually, she found some messages of me breaking down to a friend about how I felt trapped and unhappy, and we broke up. She then threatened me by hurting herself. Thankfully, she was bluffing and faked self-harm. I found a vial of fake blood and gauze in her bag that she had left in mine. I checked it because we had an argument and wanted to make sure she hadn't left valuables. Suddenly, the panic attacks came into question too. Very conveniently, she had them whenever she didn't get her way. The moral of the story is, don't bottle anything up and don't keep secrets. Although their feelings are important, so are yours. Feelings and secrets will eat you up over time. Don't not tell them. If he or she is worth it, he or she will understand. The worst case, you tell them and you lose them. But if they can't understand, they're not the person you think they are, and it's not worth it anyway. If they do understand, your relationship will be better for it. If I had been honest with my feelings, I would have saved myself 2 years of feeling suffocated and miserable. Sorry if I went off track, I just needed to offload a bit. Story 5. When my girlfriend was pregnant, she liked to take baths every night before bedtime. Every now and again, I'd join her and enjoy that relaxing hot water. One day, we were both sitting in the tub when she farted a big nasty fart. She and I both laughed and I gave her crap for possibly breaking the tub. There it was. I noticed a few brown things in the water. Turns out she had pooed a little. I was so absolutely disgusted that I nearly vomited. I didn't want to freak out because I know she would feel absolutely terrible and impossibly embarrassed. So I turned the jets on, added some bubbles, and sat there with her for another 10 to 15 minutes. Afterwards, I suggested that we both shower off because I had added too much soap for bubbles. I still think about those poop chunks floating around next to me whenever I take a bath. I'd like to think that on another thread somewhere, she's telling the story of when her boyfriend crapped in the bathtub while she was pregnant and then tried to cover it up by turning the jets on. That'd be hilarious. Story 6. My husband is terrible at surprises and wasn't very subtle in asking me my ring size, etc., while he was studying abroad in Europe. Shortly after he returned, I was helping him unpack his bags, and I think I told him I unpacked one of his bags, and his eyes went all wide and panicked. I didn't find the ring he had stashed in there, but he thought I had. I didn't think much of it until later. The next day, he was like, "Hey, we should go for a walk. I think I know a good route," which is unusual since he usually doesn't plan that far ahead. He wanted us to walk past the building where we had our first class together and where we met for our first date, plus a few other spots that meant something to us. Then, he wanted to walk to our nearby nature preserve where we spent a lot of time, where he ultimately proposed. I totally knew what he was going to do, but I kept my mouth shut and let him romance me because I loved it. It was so nervous and adorable too. We've been married about 4.5 years now, have a 2-year-old, and I'm glad I met this sweet nerd of mine. Story 7. How much her apartment cleaning service costs. My best friend growing up, practically my brother, owns a cleaning service, so I get the owner's rate. They clean my house for $60 a visit, which is insanely cheap here. When I first met my girlfriend, at some point in conversation, it came up that I use a cleaning service, and she joked, "Oh, Big Shot pays other people to clean his house." So I told her how, fortunately for me, it's not really a big expense. Fast forward a month or so, and she spent like a whole Friday night and Saturday cleaning. We both work a ton during the week, so I was like, "I'll pay for your cleaning service so we have more time to spend together on weekends." She wouldn't let me pay for it, but asked me to sign her up with my friend's service, and she just gives me the $60 or pays for some common expenses in that range. Thing is, I couldn't get the owner's rate for her, so it's really like $150 a visit. She loves having a cleaning service and appreciates having more free time, but she wouldn't pay $150 for it. I don't really care about the money, I just want her to be happy, so I don't tell her what it costs. Story 8. He is terrified of bees and wasps. They're all bees to him, completely terrified. Just the word bee will get him to start nervously looking around. If he was driving the car and a bee got in the window, I'd be afraid for my safety because there was a solid chance he'd accidentally crash. He's very embarrassed about this fear though. He knows it's irrational. He can't seem to help it. So I have developed a sixth sense about the presence of bees. If we're outside and I see one buzzing around, I'll make sure I either stand in his way so he can't see it, or I'll make an excuse for him to go inside. I've found wasps' nests in and around our house, and I take them out while he's at work and then never say a word about it. If a wasp comes around and he sees it, he'll run away. But then I'll hunt it down and kill it so when he comes back out, he can have the peace of mind of seeing its corpse from a distance. He doesn't know that I've been on 24/7 bee patrol for him for the past 3 years. I'm afraid he'd feel humiliated if he knew, and maybe even get depressed about it. But I don't mind. They're just wasps and honeybees. That's honestly the nicest thing you could do for him. But for me, bees are okay, thus save the bees. Wasps? Nope. I'll help you find them and leave their corpse everywhere to warn all wasps to leave or suffer the same fate. If you don't want to suffer the same fate as the wasps, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Story 9. 40% of my company was laid off systematically over a 2-year period. I built up my resume, networked, and made sure I had a place to land if crap hit the fan. I also worked my ass off at the job to make sure I was the one they kept if they did not go under. Ended up staying with the company, getting a raise and a promotion, and was pretty instrumental in turning the company around. She and the kids have no idea how close we were to losing my job and then subsequently our home. I still remember sobbing in the shower and giving myself a pep talk in the mirror many mornings and saying, "You can do it. Just pull all the fear out of your mind and be mentally tough." Story 10. My partner snores. Been with her 19 years and she snores every night. Mostly I can get to sleep and I sleep through it, but I know I'm not getting great sleep. I've asked her to see if we can do something about it, even suggested we do didgeridoo lessons together. The breathing technique does wonders for snoring, and why not learn a weird instrument? She's never really bothered. Her snoring can manifest as sleep apnea, which besides just not being good, is a contributor to anxiety, which she has, so it'd be good for her too. So we've recently moved. 2 nights ago, the neighbor's dog was barking in the middle of the night and kept her up for an hour or two. She kept mentioning it all day and kept telling me how tired she was. I gave some perfunctory sympathy, but no more, because secretly, it was all I could do not to say, "Welcome to every night in my life." It's not a big secret, but yeah. Dude, you gotta tell her. If you don't, you'll end up sleepless for the rest of your life. But if you can't tell her, you can always go with the earplugs and say you need them because of the barking. Story 11. That as much as I love her and her kids, our lives would be so much easier if she just let her ex have custody. She has a disability and they're both toddlers. I'm never going to have time to myself between work, tending to her needs, and tending to the kids' needs. Plus we like a home with pets. None of it is fair to me. And I know in love both parties should try to give 60%, but I give 90%, and I just don't need that to be 100%. I didn't make the kids, never wanted kids. Honestly, still don't. I just fell in love with their mother, and if I want her, I have to want them too. They aren't bad kids, they're really sweet despite their father's side of the family. I just don't want the burden. She thinks her disability is the biggest burden I could possibly face. It isn't. It's the easiest part. I love her kids. I don't love having 100% of the responsibility. That doesn't change anything though. The point of the comment was not to say I don't want to be with my partner. It was only to say I wish it could be just us two. It isn't that way. Never will be that way. And I'm okay with that. I just wish I met her before him. Would be flying around the world instead of preparing for a looming custody battle. Story 12. My girlfriend and I have a good mutual friend, Sally, that we've known since the start of our relationship, who got to know us both at the same time and while we first started dating. My girlfriend adores Sally, and while we don't talk all that frequently, when we get together, it's like nothing's changed. We have a great time. Except, I'm holding a secret that would really hurt my girlfriend. Sally and I are both pretty political and love to debate current events, and my girlfriend is much more cursory about that stuff. Subsequently, Sally thinks my girlfriend is an idiot and not worthy of me intellectually, which I feel is absolutely ludicrous, obviously. I don't need to go into all the ways my girlfriend is brilliant and one of the deepest people I've ever met, but I guess Sally doesn't see that stuff or value it as much as what she deems to be real intelligence. After she and another one of our close friends, Adam, broke up, they had been dating for about 2 years, Adam revealed to me how Sally really feels in an attempt to demonize her. She would apparently go on and on about how my girlfriend isn't smart enough to keep up with our conversations, that I'm wasting my time. I've never spoken to Sally about this directly, and I'm not really interested in pursuing it with her. It's possible that Adam was exaggerating a bit. He's pretty upset that Sally and I are still friends, but honestly, I wouldn't put it past her to say stuff like that. And if my girlfriend knew how Sally really felt, she'd be devastated. It does change how I see Sally and definitely impacts my desire to maintain a friendship with her. But my girlfriend likes her so much that I just have to forget it and move on. And it's frustrating. This sounds like a familiar plot to some chick flick, but I'm pretty sure Sally likes you. Story 13. Several years ago, my husband, boyfriend at the time, worked for a small company owned by a very good friend of ours. I spoke with a friend quite a bit, and he confided in me that my husband was not a good employee. Pretty unreliable, and the only reason he hadn't been fired yet was because our friend knew he was having a rough time after his mom died. I had also recently moved out of state to take care of my sick dad. My husband refused to come with me because he felt he couldn't leave the company. I was having a conversation one day with my husband, and he mentioned another friend of his was having a hard time at this other company but felt he couldn't leave because he had a baby on the way. He said, "I'd offer him my job if I thought my boss would hire him." So I conspired with a friend or the boss to get the other friend to quit his job and pretend he got fired. My husband then decided the only honorable thing to do was fall on his sword and give up his job to give to the other friend. He talked with the boss and convinced the boss to let him make the move. And it played out like that, and my husband moved in with me. He ended up getting a job he liked better, and he was happier being with me, so his performance was better. We're still very good friends with the boss. To this day, we've kept the secret, and it's been almost 10 years. And every time I see him, he whispers in my ear how proud he is that my husband was able to move in with me and grow into a much healthier adult. But we'll never tell him, because he'd be so embarrassed if he knew that our friend thought of him as an employee. Story 14. Sometimes I really like her singing, but a lot of the time, she's just straining way out of her range. It can almost sound like she's wailing or shouting. Those aren't quite the right words, but I'm not going on the hunt for a thesaurus over this, and it's fine. I mean, I can't really sing, so even her bad singing is probably better than mine, but it can be really annoying. Sometimes she'll be playing guitar to accompany herself, and she'll get so into the song she's singing that she'll start slamming the strings. I don't know how else to describe it. She plays really well generally, but when she's excited, she hits the strings so hard they sound like they're going to break. That weird clunking music accompanied by the high, loud, cracking singing is truly cacophonous. I will never tell her. Not ever. She has so much fun doing it. I've decided it's just worth more than my temporary annoyance. I couldn't bear to let the wind out of her sails by telling her when she sounds irritating. It'd be a different story if she was performing at open mics or something, but she only plays to entertain herself. Good for you to keep it to yourself. Also cacophonous. I think you meant caterwauling. Yes, I, Rufus, have an extensive vocabulary. I also love Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Story 15. That one of her biggest passions makes absolutely no sense to me. She's a jewelry artist, works for an actual jewelry company as a day job, then makes stuff for her own to sell online. Though lately she's been busy and hasn't done much of the second, though I am trying to help her a bit so she can do it more. And she just loves rocks. She'll come home with a bag full of rocks, practically jumping, telling me how she got all these for $50. And then go through the whole bag and show me every rock, tell me how this one is a so-and-so, and you can tell because it's this color and this hardness, and feel how smooth it is and how you can see the imperfection here, and it all goes way over my head. And when I say rocks, I mean both actual rocks and gemstones. I've seen her get equally excited over a rock in a driveway as she is over some blue crystal she got from an auction. And every now and then I go online and research about these things so that I can talk with her about it, because holy crap, her smile when she talks about those rocks, she's so beautiful. But after I close the webpage going, yeah, I know all about the difference between a ruby and a sapphire now. I literally only freaking know those names because of Pokemon. I basically immediately start forgetting stuff, because they're rocks. It's just dirt that hardened and got pressurized at the right way at the right kind of heat or however they formed. But on the other hand, it's completely fine that I always forget stuff about the rocks because she loves telling me about them. And so far hasn't seemed bothered that she had to tell me twice, or more. Just excited that she could tell me the info. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out When Someone Wrongfully Assumes You're Dumb. Story 11 was so funny. Catch you on that video.